shadow. You are follow in my pattern. I love.
Hello and welcome to the Ladies' Room. Today my guest is Temur Zamani, who has the most wonderful, colorful, interesting shop in Sag Harbor that's in the alley across from Sagtown, right in the center of town, center of everything. And I love your store.
Thank
Welcome.
you, Judy.
It's March of 2022. We've just come out of 2 years of shutdown and everything, thinking we were all going to get back to life as usual. And now, as we all know, there's this tragedy going on in Ukraine. And we're all heartbroken about what's going on there and terrified for the people of Ukraine and for the planet. And Timur, you're from Afghanistan, and you know this well. What's going on in Afghanistan now? Weren't your people fighting Russians in Afghanistan initially?
You're right, Judy. Actually, the year that I was born, the Russians invaded Afghanistan. So for as long as I was in Afghanistan, about 10 years from the age of, until like 1989, 79 to 89.
10 years.
The Russians were there, and you know, as a kid, I remember the whole.
Were they bombing? What were they doing?
There were fights, skirmishes, battles all over the
Killing
country.
people.
Yeah, but we lived in the capital, and you know, as a kid, I remember a lot of the war, you know, and the things that really stand on my mind are whenever we went to sleep at night. As a kid, I couldn't sleep. It was scary.
I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah, you hear explosions, you know,
Oh my
and
goodness.
they're so loud that it feels it's so near. So you can imagine a 5 or 6 year old kid. I would be snuggling next to my mother or my older sister, you know. And
How many siblings do you have?
there is 6 of us, so we're 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Yeah.
Oh my, I can't even imagine. So that book, Kite Runner, did that have anything about the war in it? I had to stop reading it. I got to a certain point and I was like, I can't read any more of it. I loved it though. It made me feel like I was in Afghanistan.
Totally, and that's what I loved about the Kite Runner as well. Although
You sell those kites now.
the author says it's fiction. It sounds so real. Me growing up in Afghanistan, and kite flying is such a huge. So we flew kites every day, and it's what basketball and football is here. You know, that's what kite flying is. It's very common, and it's just a very beautiful thing to see these kites in the sky. But when the Kite Runner, the book came out, I'm based in Washington, D.C., where my business is, and the Afghan embassy called us. And they're like, you got to bring Afghan kites because everyone is calling about Afghan kites. So we actually had Afghan kites come from Afghanistan, shipped from Afghanistan by the same kite maker who made for the movie The Kite Runner. And those kites are around, and you know, it's such a piece of art when you actually see the kites and how it's made and how it flies, and it's
Everything in your store is a piece of art, I have to say. I got this necklace in your store. I wore it today.
Oh, thank you.
And I got a bunch of rings, which my daughter immediately confiscated. I kept one. I was like, no, that one you can't have. That's mine.
That one is actually, it was done by my father.
Your father made this necklace?
He put it all together,
Oh
he
my
designed
God.
it. So the pendant is old. It's from the 60s and 70s. And then you have the amber beads and carnelian beads. So
I love amber. It's very protective of your throat.
Yeah,
amber.
Exactly. Yeah,
I don't know carnelian. What the
carnelian is also,
energy of that is.
It's protection. It's like
It's amazing how everything is energy, and you know, we walk through it and we don't even think about how just everything is energy. The counter, the you know, stones.
Yeah, Judy, you mentioned Ukraine earlier.
Yeah.
You're so right. Us Afghans, we understand and feel them so much.
Oh my God.
We've been through that. Afghanistan has been, in the past 40 years, we've been through wars.
Ravaged.
You know, the whole nation has seen so much atrocities.
And it's still going on, isn't it?
It is, you know. So we really feel what is going on in Ukraine, and our thoughts and prayers are
Prayers.
with them. Exactly.
Oh, we need a miracle. We absolutely need a miracle. And one hopes that this kind of wake-up call for everyone, the threat that the whole planet could be destroyed, makes people realize that we need a planet of peace. I mean, this is crazy in this day of age. This is like James Bond stuff. It's just insane.
Exactly.
That one tiny person, he's got a Napoleon complex, obviously, wants to rule the world. I mean, he took Georgia, he took Crimea, he was in Syria, he was in Bosnia probably. I mean, he's just,
Hopefully, it doesn't go there where we're dealing with crazy weapons
No, we can't.
and all that.
Can't.
So
We
I
can't.
think there are enough good people in the world.
I think there's way more good people
Exactly.
than bad people.
Exactly.
The
So
problem is that bad people kill good people, but good people don't kill bad people.
yeah, but the
We don't-
energy,
we don't
the
stir up
energy
trouble.
of good, I think,
Light
will
over
vibrate.
darkness. Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Love over
that's-
hate, light over darkness. That's what we have to
and
believe in.
It's hope. That ray of hope should always be there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So were you born in the capital?
I was born in Kabul. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you grew up there? What?
We were there until December of 1989. So I was there until the age of 10 years old, and I went to public school from first grade to fourth grade, and the war got so bad that my father managed to get us out of the country.
All of you?
And
The whole
all
family?
the family. He had already moved out of the country, established his business
In Washington, D.C.?
in Saudi Arabia, actually.
Oh.
So, and then in 1980, early 80s, he had managed to get out because it was very difficult for businessmen like him to do business once the Russians invaded. You know, there
Yeah.
were no tourists. Afghanistan lived on tourism, and in the 60s and 70s,
It must have been very beautiful.
Afghanistan was the most visited country in Asia.
Wow,
It was
yeah.
the place to be. It was the
Everybody
capital
wanted
of
to
the
buy
hippies.
rugs and-
The fur coats, the
Yeah.
vests. You know, that was Afghanistan. So
Yeah, the
my
hats,
grandfather,
all the
my
textiles.
uncles, yeah, they had stores and workshops around in the capital, and every tourist, they would go and buy things
Yeah.
from there, you know. And I see some photos of those times and hear the stories. It sounds like a fairy tale, and because it was just so beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
you were still
tourists
young.
would
You were
travel.
10 when you left?
Yeah, I was 10 when I left, but my time was war. The Russian was there, so you know, those nice,
so you
pleasant
hear
stories were just fairy tales for us. Yeah.
Oh, man. So Saudi Arabia,
So
how many years were you there?
we were in Saudi Arabia about 10. I was there about 10 years. My
Wow.
father's business is still there. So
In
when my father
Dubai or where?
in Dubai is in a different country, but Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah. So
Dubai
my
is in a
f-
different
my-
country?
how
Duh.
how my father ended up in Saudi Arabia was when he was in Afghanistan having his businesses. A lot of American tourists who were working and living in Saudi Arabia, they were going to trips and tourism to Afghanistan, tour groups.
Wow.
And my father had made friends. So when the Russians came, he called upon them and they said, well, if
He
you
had
can
an
come to
offering.
Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
we'll have trunk shows for you. And this is where, come to our compounds, we'll bring rugs. So that's how
That's great,
my
yeah.
father's whole story started. It was the Americans that did trunk shows for him, and he from little shows, he started having a storefront and 1, 2, and then his stores in Saudi Arabia, Afghan House Oriental Carpets. If anyone has ever lived there in Jeddah, they would know. All the expats, that was their place. That was where they would buy rugs and, you know, come have a cup of tea. And it was just
I had a friend that
pleasant.
smuggled in rugs. Like, it had to be now like 1968 with bars of hash in the rugs.
I've heard stories like
on
that.
my birthday
yeah.
that year,
But
he-
you don't want to do that in Saudi Arabia because
No.
they will,
Oh,
you know.
I mean, it was amazing that he did that. He came over my birthday and he threw it was like a large Hershey bar. He was like, "Here, Judy, happy birthday," and it was this bar of
Oh,
hashish.
that's a nice birthday.
That was a
Afghan
lasted. It
hash.
lasted like a year because you just take a little tiny piece, right?
That's
Amazing. Oh, the good old days. So, what do you have any like memories from? Well, war.
yeah. The war memories are the ones that are like vibrant in my mind
Yeah.
that stays, like,
Did
you know,
anything
there
come
would be,
close to you?
well, I mean,
You
there
heard it.
I heard it, but there was also where, we would walk from school to home, and one day when I was walking, there was an explosion, a bomb blast in some district, and when I was passing by that road, or there was a hospital, they were bringing dead bodies there.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's very sad. So to see as a kid, as a 7-year-old or 8-year-old, to see the dead bodies, it's really haunting. It's like I couldn't sleep. That whole picture of a dead body was like on my mind. I couldn't sleep. So it was. I think I saw a little girl. She was covered with a sheet, and there was blood coming out. And then I also saw a body. I think it was a soldier. It was
Devastating.
turned into like
Yeah.
ash, like it was like burnt, and it was very bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's those are the kind of things. But I also remember flying those beautiful kites.
Yeah.
I also remember the snow-covered mountains, and in the spring you see the mountains, the hills with tulips, with
Wow.
beautiful flowers. The nature is beautiful in Afghanistan. So those are beautiful things. The kite flying, the food, the people, the hospitality of the people. When you go to someone's house, that never-ending
Yeah,
hospitality.
I
It's
felt that
those
warmth
things.
from you the first time I met you. I met you at Guildhall years ago.
Yeah, I remember
And
that. That was one of the first shows that I did when I first moved here
Yeah.
to Sag Harbor.
Yeah,
There was
and
a-
the warmth. I mean, you drew us right in, my girlfriend and I.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it just runs in our blood. We get it from the country, from the culture. It's there.
We're going to do a food show.
Oh, I would love that.
Ooh.
Judy, I have to say, for me, the whole business thing, how when we were in Saudi Arabia, and the Arabic schools would not take us because we didn't speak Arabic. So my father was very worried, and he had American clients
Did you
that were
already
teachers.
speak English?
No, not a word of English. So the American school was there,
Yeah.
and the teachers were my father's friends and clients. So the teachers
Took you
told
under
my
their
father,
wing.
they're like, well, that's okay if they don't speak English. If you can afford this school, we'll take your kids. We'll put them in ESL classes. I started from 5th grade at the American school. I remember the first day when we went to the school. I didn't even speak a word. I spoke, the only word that I knew was thank
Hello.
you. So
Yeah.
where are you from? What is your name? I would be like, thank you, thank you. Now when I think of it, it's a good word to know. Usually
It's
you learn a bad word at
Giving thanks
So,
is
yeah,
how we should be every moment of
exactly.
every day.
So I was very thankful in my early days of English learning.
Do you still have any family in Afghanistan, uncles and stuff?
A lot of relatives.
A lot of
yeah,
relatives.
Cousins, uncles.
And still dealing with all that.
Dealing, yeah. They're so used to that sort of environment, and and currently it's the Taliban rule, and
So do women still have to wear burqas? I was dreaming about women wearing burqas this
so the
morning.
burqa is the thing that you cover. It's like a cage basically, and no, it's not a must. But
Are they heavy? What fabric are they made out
It's
of?
made out of cotton.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and it's not too heavy.
Any women try to do them in different colors, or they have to wear
No,
black?
there are different colors. Some, but the burqa is not a must. As long as you cover your hair, you don't have the burqa covers your
the
face.
scarf.
Exactly. As long as you do that,
Yeah.
and you don't have to have a burqa. So
So it would be kind of like the Hasidic Jewish people, like the really
Exactly.
traditionalists would wear the
Exactly.
burqa.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
think that any woman
But-
would want to like throw that off immediately.
but also, Judy, the burqa, I know it's very unpleasant. It's I think that is it should be gone from those societies.
Gone.
We should move forward.
Women need to
But
be
back
free.
in the back in the old days, it's villages, it's people that are not educated. They don't know
Yeah.
how to
And they
like
probably don't have
deal with
any
a
other
situation where
clothes.
saying they're seeing a woman. So
Yeah.
a lot of women, like my grandmother, my mother, they wore that stuff and they felt protected going to the store to buy goods.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
Yeah.
they felt protected that
They
they
felt
could go.
invisible.
Exactly, because if you
Yeah.
went without a burqa,
Oh,
you would
men would be like,
exactly.
yeah,
So,
treat you a
but yeah,
different
the
way.
burqa is not a must now. It's rarely seen in the capital, especially. It's changed, you know. But yeah, it's still
Are you,
strict.
are
There's
you and your
freedom is
family
limited.
doing anything to help kind of what the situation with women, or it's impossible?
Very much involved with that, Judy. I've always been involved with Afghanistan. You know, the reason I started, you know, once I graduated school and moved to Washington D.C.
What made
I
you move to Washington, D.C.?
That's where my brother had come in '95. He went to college, university, and I had, after graduating school in Saudi Arabia, I went to London for college and
Oh, that's
university.
fun.
And my father always had good thoughts about America.
Sounds like you had a great dad.
He wanted his family, kids, to be in the U.S. And so after graduating college and university in London, I moved to Washington, D.C. And that's when I decided I want to continue my family line of work.
Yeah.
Arts and crafts of Afghanistan, rugs, textiles, clothing, and
House of Heritage.
House of Heritage. I know,
Zamani House of
because there was so much
Heritage.
happening in the early
Yeah.
2000s about Afghanistan, you know, the whole war thing. I felt it's such a good time for me to continue this family line of work.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm dealing with beautiful things. I need to show the beautiful side of the culture behind the war and what we see on CNN and the BBCs.
Yeah.
So that was and also I wanted to continue creating jobs, what my grandfather was doing, helping, you know, create jobs, helping artists,
Yeah.
supporting their work, and the rug weavers, embroiderers, jewelers. So I wanted to continue that whole legacy.
So that's how you got involved with
Yeah,
rugs and textiles. And
yep. And Washington D.C. I started going to the flea markets and shows, and I met people. People supported me, friends, and slowly it grew from one store to two stores. Washington in Northern Virginia, a huge warehouse.
Wow.
In Georgetown, Washington D.C., a beautiful little store.
Wow. And what brought you to Sag Harbor? How did you wind up here?
I always joke I took the wrong boat, but
That
through
turned
good-
out to be the right boat.
The right boat, exactly. And I absolutely love it here. One of my really good friends and clients, Karen French, she was in Washington, D.C., and we became really good friends. She loved the whole culture thing. She loved the idea of sharing culture. And on her work breaks in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., she would come, sit, and just relax in the shop. She would she
you
felt
could
that
spend hours in your
energy.
store looking at
Exactly.
stuff.
She felt stress-free. That's,
Yeah.
you know, and she loved the whole concept of sharing culture. And in the summers in Washington, D.C., it would get very
Muggy?
slow. It would,
Oh, slow.
yeah, people would be traveling. So when I mentioned with her, I was like, Karen, I hope I can find another place where, you know, I personally love beach, ocean, where I can have a business somewhere
Me
like that in the
too.
summer. And she's like, well, Temur, there is Sag Harbor. We have this property there. We have stores. You know, accommodation is difficult, but if you can handle with that, we'll rent one of my stores and go try. People will love your store. So that's how it all started. In summer of 2017, I opened my little store in Sag Harbor, and ever since, it's just been
Almost 6 years?
almost, almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, 2017. So yeah, 5 years. And
Well, you did 17, you did 18, you did 19, you did 20. That's 4.
yeah, 21.
21? Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're in your 6th year now.
Yeah. So
That's good. It's a year of harmony.
yeah, and you know, people are supporting. People are really loving that little store. I think the town is so unique, and what I do is kind of
It's
unique.
the
It
realest
brings
town we
culture.
have out
It
here,
brings-
isn't it?
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
It's
It brings,
still-
and my little store adds something beautiful to the town. So
Yeah, it's the real
and-
deal.
Yeah.
So, were you very interested in textiles and like creating jewelry and stuff like that when you were little?
as a kid, you know, after school we would go to my father's store, and there we would meet the expat community, Americans, Europeans, and my father being around them, playing his music instrument.
Oh, what
and
does he play?
He plays this Afghan instrument called robab.
And what is that like? Is
It
it
is.
like a
It's
sarod
like
or
a
something?
yeah. It's like a sarod, exactly like a sitar, but you know, it's a very old instrument. Has a 5,000-year history.
Wow.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, very soulful. It's like the instrument of the Sufis. You know, we were talking about
The
Rumi
Sufis,
earlier.
yeah.
That's like the Rumi music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he would play his instrument, and that sound of rubab, you know, and customers going around looking at rugs. So that's what brought my love towards those sort of arts, textiles and rugs, and you know, that's that. And not only that, but the knowledge that you grow up as a kid around your grandfather, father, you know, that whole profession becomes such a huge thing. You know, you learn so much all these years being around them. I thought that was such a priceless thing to not
Priceless.
to continue. Exactly.
I mean,
That knowledge.
Americans have kind of lost that kind of
Yeah.
tradition of the elders and stuff like that.
So I'm really
It's
happy
sad.
about that. That
Yeah.
you know, I continue that family line of work, and it's creating jobs for people back in Afghanistan. It's also giving this beautiful side of the culture here, which needs to be seen.
Yeah. Does your family come to visit you here in Sag Harbor often?
Not as often as I would like. It's accommodation has been a little difficult. I have a little room, you know, and
Yeah.
things are kind of expensive. Hopefully one day I'm going to have a home here, and then my family can visit and see this beautiful town. And
Yeah.
you know, beyond my store, I have so many things that I want to share with people here, so many of the culture. You know I have the arts and the crafts, but the music from there is beautiful. The food is amazing. I would love to share all of that with
Are you
people.
planning any events to do that?
I would love to. I've started talking to the church, to the cinema. I think
The
everyone
church is doing
everyone
great
is really
things. Yeah.
interested. You know,
Sag
the food,
Cinema is
the music.
fabulous.
Yeah, so it will happen.
Yeah.
And
We have so
I
many
just want to
venues
say,
now.
yeah, I think if anyone is would like to, you know, help me on that, they're more than welcome to come to my little store in front of Sacktown Coffee, and we'll sit and talk and try to find the right venues and organize these events. And I think it's just a beautiful
It would
thing.
be
you
great
know?
to do an
Yeah.
Afghan cooking show
Exactly.
here.
Oh, I would be
So are
interested.
the spices that are used in Afghan food,
Yeah.
are they like similar to Indian spices? What are the major spices that
Well,
are used?
the major spices that were Afghan spices are a little milder. We're not as spicy as Indian or Pakistani food. You know, the main ingredients we have are coriander, cumin,
I love coriander.
a little turmeric, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, very simple.
Healthy
But
and simple.
but our cuisine is really vast. It's because of the culture. We have 4 or 5 main tribes in Afghanistan. When you go to Afghanistan, you come across Chinese looking, Indian looking, European looking, green eyes, you know, blonde hair, different parts of Afghanistan, and it's like a melting pot. And so the cuisine is very different. We have pasta dishes, we have curry dishes, we have so many veggie dishes, and it's just such a mix of things.
Yeah, the
That's
Chinese
Afghanistan.
invented pasta.
Exactly.
Everybody
The
thinks it's
dumplings
Italian,
and-
but Marco
No, it's the
Polo
Chinese, yeah.
got it in
exactly. Totally.
China. So, anything you want to like tell the American people about Afghanistan? What would be a takeaway that you would want Americans to know about Afghanistan? We've probably covered a lot of it.
We've covered a lot, but what I want to say is that I know there's a lot happening in the world nowadays. You know, it's been about 7-8 months since, you know, Afghanistan was on the news, and the Taliban took over.
Yeah, now.
And now with the situation in Ukraine happening, I just want people to know that
Don't
you know,
forget
let's not
Afghanistan.
forget Afghanistan.
No.
What what happened to Afghanistan in the last 20 years, you know,
Ravaged.
there were so many good things happening when the Americans were there. I have to say that, and I always share that with my American friends. Girls were going to school. Women had, you know, sort of freedom. They were working, and we kind of teased them with democracy and freedom, and then all of a sudden, America just left them out there in the open. I think a lot of people understand what I'm trying to say. Let's
Yeah.
not forget those people. Afghanistan sacrificed so much for freedom to fight terrorism. It was Afghans in the front lines. It was Afghans who were side by side with Americans. They were actually the first ones going into missions, and it was Afghans dying. We sacrificed so much. Let's not forget Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, Trump did make that deal with the Taliban, and then Biden had to follow through
Yeah.
on it, and it just,
Yeah.
it was a disaster.
But when that whole thing happened, one thing that I really remember of all this situation, in my store, every day, people would come and be like, Temur, I'm sorry what's happening in Afghanistan. Is there anything we can do?
Yeah.
To me, that is
The heart of
American
Americans.
culture. That's
The heart
exactly.
of Americans,
And,
yeah.
and that's what makes people come to this country. That's what makes this country our home.
Yeah.
It is that sort of
Democracy and the American dream.
exactly, and
Yeah.
so I was already helping Afghanistan people, the women there, the girls. So I shared that with
We're
my
out of
friends.
time.
Are we-
We're out of time, but
I
I would
wanted
love
to-
to talk to you more about
Yeah, so
Afghanistan
that whole
and do a
mission,
cooking
I
show.
wanted to tell them.
We can
about-
talk
yeah.
while we cook.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much for coming, Timur.
But the last part would be cut. It will be
No,
no. Okay.
thank you for joining the ladies' room. And remember, ladies, give yourself lots of room for love, room for fun,
Yes.
room to grow, and room to glow. And please pray for the people of Afghanistan and Ukraine.
Ukraine, yes.
Everybody, see a miracle. See it very strongly in your mind. We can pull it off. Light over darkness. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Breathe in. Breathe in. Take